Good morning, everyone. It is so great to see everyone this morning. My name is Natalie Self, and I have the joy and pleasure of being the Executive Director of STEMSTL. I'm thrilled to be here this morning with you and 170 of our region's best STEM educators, employers, community partners, and neighbors. This morning is an opportunity to celebrate our work and each other, the work of collaboratively building a STEM learning and career pathway ecosystem that creates clarity for our learners, rigor for them in their preparation, and equity in how our young people access and move through our STEM learning ecosystem. We are here because we know that we need to create systems such that not everyone has just an equal chance of succeeding in the region, but we are intentionally correcting systems that are created by an abundance of opportunities and a lack of opportunities for others. And we need to make sure that those who've been systemically left behind experience that no longer. We've got about 100 new friends and partners here, so I'd like to remind us of where all of this began. At the beginning of 2018, a highly diverse group of 150 representatives from the region's STEM educators, employers, STEM-rich institutions like our museums, parents and community partners, and local government officials came together for 2 design sessions to answer the question, what would have to be built to connect some of our 150 out-of-school STEM programs, our 240 schools and school districts across the region, our neighborhoods, our STEM employers, and the workforce organizations in the region to make sure that our young people were prepared for our economy of the future. Out of those sessions came an organizing structure for STEMSTL, working groups, and a set of focus areas. And so this is what we do as a community. We do these 5 things. First, we work to strengthen the ecosystem of partners that work with STEM learners like you to prepare them for our regional economy. Today is an example of one of those things. We create community and space for people to come together. 2, we work to centralize communications about STEM learning activities happening in the region. 3, we are working collaboratively to increase the rigor and standardize the quality measures across STEM learning for both students and those who instruct them. 4, we work collaboratively to identify gaps and fill them, whether it's related to neighborhoods where we would like to see more STEM learning, or maybe it's related to the clusters of St. Louis's economies and trying to understand what are programs that we need to infill to meet those workforce needs of the future. And finally, we are working intentionally to build more linkages to those clusters that you've heard me talk about. We know that our young people, in order to have a strong quality of life in this region, no matter who they are, need to be prepared to work in our ag, biotech sectors, our advanced manufacturing sectors, our energy, our geospatial, our IT, coding, software design, financial technology sectors, and others. And this year, with your efforts, STEMSTL and partners have delivered a dizzying array of products and services and experiences towards these focus areas. So here's just a reminder of a few of them. First, we launched a community campaign called STEM at Home. Thanks so much to our Students and Family Committee that did a lot of work on this. This campaign featured ads on Metrolink buses and Metro stops from Ferguson to Muscuda, encouraging parents that what they were doing at home during the overwhelming summer months was already useful in STEM learning and encouraging them to do more. We held a series of learning opportunities attended by more than 220 of our ecosystem measures, ranging from quality remote instruction put on by our teacher professional development work group to anti-racism in STEM with support of our broadening participation work group and roundtables on inequitable educational outcomes in the region. Together with our partners in EdHub and WePower, we worked on a community campaign to identify, document, and amplify community voices from across the region to allow them to share what their concerns were related to equitable reopening of schools. We launched an Educator Portal, which served as a one-stop shop for educators in the region to find learning opportunities, field trips, and professional development opportunities from 24 of our STEM-rich institutions. That portal's been accessed almost 100 times already since its launch at the end of September. And that site features some other things that our work groups have been working on. It includes our transportable skills document that the Pathways to Workforce group has been working so hard on. It's a document that names what are skills that young people need to develop regardless of where they go work. And our quality teacher professional development rubric, a labor of love put together by our teacher PD work group to really understand what does the research say about what quality teacher professional development looks like, and what does it look like to do that online and through a lens of anti-racism. We encourage you to check all of these out at www.STEMSTL. We've made first-time connections between more than 900 individuals in our ecosystems. That's 900 times that we've introduced two people who didn't know each other previously. And we have launched our Quality Anti-Racism Out-of-School Community of Practice. This is a 10-month opportunity for out-of-school time STEM programs to work with national experts in what quality, evidence-based STEM instruction looks like, and particularly through a lens of anti-racism. And this morning, I'm so excited to be able to announce our inaugural class. So if you could give these folks some love in the chat, we would appreciate it. So here they are in alphabetical order. We are having ArtScope join us, the Center for Access and Achievement at Maryville University, COCA, Cyber Up, the Gateway Region YMCA, the Girl Scouts of Eastern Missouri, HealthWorks Kids Museum St. Louis, Provident Behavioral Health, the St. Louis Science Center, Sinai Family Life Center, and Lit Shop, last but certainly not least. Congratulations to you all. We are so thrilled to have all 11 programs in this community of practice. We're excited to give you the space, time, and resources to learn from each other. You might note it's a quite diverse group of folks serving a diversity of students. And as we get towards the end of the community of practice, we'll be sure to have a learning opportunity for everyone in the ecosystem to display what these organizations have worked on. So that's what we did this year. Next year is really a year of activation and amplification. We can't wait to work with each of you to determine the best ways to make sure that we continue this feedback loop between what we hear our stakeholders need us to build and what we deliver. At STEMSTL, we operate from that continuous quality improvement lens, and we're really entrepreneurial in thinking about how we build this ecosystem to ensure that our young people, again, have clear, rigorous, and equitable STEM learning and career pathways. Of particular excitement is the development and launch of Blueprint for STEM, powered by STEMSTL in partnership with the Clark Fox Family Foundation. If you're familiar with Blueprint for Summer, Blueprint for STEM will be exactly the same thing. A one-stop shop where you can find STEM out-of-school programs after school and during the weekends in non-summer months. We, of course, will be reaching out to you to get your input on that design process, and certainly could not be doing that without our good friends over at Clark Fox. All of this work is important. The stuff is important. The outputs and the outcomes and the meetings, it's all important. But the reality in 2020 is that the way we do this work is just as, if not more important than the actual work itself. I don't have to remind you that this year has been a lot. Even if we used our math and our pattern skills to predict a global recession for this year, many of us were not expecting a viral pandemic. And on top of that, the continuous emergency of systemic racism just isn't going away in this country. You may remember Christian Cooper. He is the Black birder who at the beginning of June had an incident happen as he was going birding in New York Central Park. He is ostensibly a poster child for broadening participation. Broadening participation is the term that the National Science Foundation uses to describe sort of diversity, inclusion, and equity efforts in STEM. Christian Cooper's parents were teachers. He was a 4-H kid. He graduated from Harvard. He loved science. He was an expert in it. He's on the board of the Audubon Society. And yet, when he was burdened in his community, he was encountered simply as a Black man. And because of that, his life was put in danger. And so I and we have spent most of the year talking with thousands of folks about anti-racism in STEM. What does that look like? What does that mean? We need to be really clear that as we move forward in this work, it's not just enough to say that we need to be inclusive, but we need to proactively build solutions that address the policy and the systems root of the gaps that we see in the region. And to do that, we need you to continue to stay engaged. Please follow us on social media. This morning, we will be tweeting from @STEMSTL. Please join our newsletter or our working groups or the informal learning conversations that we have every month. And feel free to reach out directly to me and we can have a chat about what is the best way to get engaged. Before we kick off this morning, full of learning and community and connection and celebration, I have a lot of people to thank. So first, thank you for all of the work that you're already doing in the ecosystem. Thank you for showing up here this morning. I know lots of us are balancing lots of things, and to have 172 people registered, which is by far our largest event ever, is truly incredible, and I really appreciate it. Thank you to the STEMSTL team, Kate Polokonis, our program coordinator. I could not survive without her. She's incredible. And so the next time you talk to her or you see her, please thank her for me. Daniel Bristow is our past AmeriCorps volunteer. Dan, you were amazing. You bridged from previous folks working in STEMSTL to me, and then the pandemic also would not have survived without you. And finally, we have a new Vista on board. Haley Johnson is the newest member of our team, and we couldn't be more thrilled to have her. She's jumped in, she's curious, and I can't wait for you all to meet her. Thank you to members of our working groups, to advisory council and steering committee members. There are over 100 of you, and we would be here all day if I named each of you specifically. Thank you to Deborah Patterson, who is the chair of the steering committee, most especially. These folks have provided constant guidance, support, and sometimes the tough love that we need to keep this work moving forward. Thank you especially to our current and former work group chairs. These folks do a ton of work behind the scenes and respond to a lot of our emails. So I want to shout them out specifically. In Pathways to Workforce, Kimberly Erskine and Marilyn Allen have been long-time leaders in this group. Tiff Davis, we're so excited to have you join as a co-chair, as well as Dr. Dawn. In Teacher PD, thank you so much to Vicki May and Brett Richardson for their long-time leadership, and we're excited to welcome Deb Holmes as the new co-chair. In Broadening Participation, Barbara Penner and Sharita Love continue to carry that mantle and could not do this work without them. And then in Students and Families, thank you to Steve Coxon and Micheline Carble for your past leadership, and we're really excited to have Jess Walden-Gray and Zasmin Johnson as our new co-chairs. Thank you so much to our organizational backbone funders, the James S. McDonald Foundation, the Burgess Family Foundation, Missouri S&T, Enterprise Holdings, Change Inc., and Millipore Sigma, as well as our individual donors. Backbone funding is critical for this kind of work because it gives us the flexibility to deploy the dollars in ways that we really need to, which, given what happened this year, was really important. And finally, thank you to the sponsors for today who have stepped up to emphasize their commitment to quality, rigorous STEM learning in the region and their commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion in their workforces. Benson Hill Biosystems, Change Inc., the Cortex Innovation Community, Gladiator Consulting, MyTech, and Missouri S&T. Thank you also so much to the team from Gladiator Consulting for their incredible work to pull this morning off. Please enjoy this morning. Meet some new folks, join a roundtable, have a conversation, grab a couch on the side and chit chat with folks. Stay the whole time and don't forget to come back at the end. We will have a raffle drawing. And with that, let's get started.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Kate Polokonis. I'm the program coordinator here at STEMSTL. I am very excited to be hosting this morning's panel, The Positives of the Great Pivot, Finding New Programming Quality and Equity Practices in Uncertainty. I feel so incredibly grateful to be sharing this virtual stage with our 4 panelists. 2020 has certainly been a challenging year, and I think Pivot has a decent shot at being Merriam-Webster's Word of the Year. Our panelists responded to the challenges of 2020 with such creativity, empathy, and resilience that STEMSTL wanted to create a space for them to share how the changes they made in their program delivery models not only compensated for lost resources, but actually went above and beyond and improved access, equity, or quality, or maybe all of them. So I will start introducing them as our wonderful event producers are bringing them on stage. Terrell Adger is the program manager at Jean Slay's Girls and Boys Club, which was instrumental in putting together distribution plans for students who are no longer receiving needed resources at school. Brittany Hogan is the Director of Educational Equity and Diversity at Rockwood School District, which implemented the Say Something series of conversations on racial equity this year. Jennifer Irvin is the School Community Educator Partner for BJC Healthcare, which has used virtual tools this year to allow students to continue to engage in critical career exploration in healthcare. And Mary Suter is the Assistant Vice President for Economic Education at the Federal Reserve Bank of St. Louis, which this year started offering virtual teacher training for its free AP curricula. So welcome them in the chat. And it looks like we are still bringing a few panelists up. But I'm going to go ahead and kick off with Jennifer and Brittany, and as Mary and Terrell arrive, we can bring them up too. So first of all, thank you so much for being here this morning as part of our panel, and thank you for all of the work that you do on a daily basis to support high quality STEM education and robust pathways into STEM careers for St. Louis learners. I wanted to open by having the panelists briefly share how their organizations responded to the challenges of 2020. So if you could take a couple of minutes to describe how you adapted your program delivery models to retain high quality instruction during the pandemic and or respond to the heightened awareness of racial oppression that was really brought to people's minds this summer. So Brittany, can we kick it off with you? Okay, we're going to kick off with Jennifer then, while Brittany is fixing her mic issue.
Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you a little bit. If you could maybe be a little closer to the mic or turn your mic up.
I turned up my mic. Max, can you hear me now?
Yep, you sound great.
All right, thank you so much for having me. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. Your first part, one of your questions was how we have adapted within BJC Healthcare. So the department that I work out of is BJC School Outreach and Youth Development, and we are challenged with offering opportunities for schools to partner with all 15 of our hospitals. So we have one department within a system of 31,000 employees that's charged with working with schools. So the first thing that we've done organizationally, we wanted to make sure that all of our employees were good. So making sure that employees had the PPE that was needed, a lot of adjustments made on behalf of staff, shifting from reporting daily to the office to working remote, as a lot of you all are. So we're working at what we call alternate work sites. We've also had to make shifts, obviously, with regards to how we work with our customers, our patients and their families with regards to visiting, which impacted a lot of the work that I do out of my department, because a lot of what I do is offering students, teachers, anyone interested in learning more about careers, we actually invite them into our hospitals to take a look. So we coordinate tours of the hospital, we coordinate one-on-one job shadows. So we had to pivot really quickly to make sure that we were able to have those opportunities, but we shifted them to be virtual opportunities. And in order to do that, we called on our partners. One of our big partners was Channel 9. You know, we called on Channel 9 and reached out to Andy and said, hey, we need your help. And so we had already recorded some very active videos of our employees doing what they do so that students could see opportunities within various careers. So we started utilizing those videos, as well as having schools to join us via Zoom for our presentations, and having our presenters to present from their departments so they could actually do a virtual tour and walk through while they were presenting. In terms of making sure that students had the opportunity to still shadow and learn that one-on-one experience, we were able to connect schools with 2 schools in particular. We connected with our partners over at Washington University School of Medicine to create and design an experience just for their students around STEM, where the medical students will be spending 1 day a week in a virtual session with students that are interested in careers in healthcare, as well as similar opportunities around the St. Louis area like that. In terms of how we have looked at the challenges that are going on with regards to the heightened awareness of racial oppression, we started from the top. So our president and CEO sent out a message to all 31,000 employees, a really heartfelt letter about his feelings on what was going on. And in the subject, it's past time to stand up against injustice and racism. And he sent that to all 31,000 of our employees, but he also sent it to the media. And it was a very, very heartfelt message that we knew it was time for us to really come together. The diversity department offered several sessions where all employees were required to participate and talk about how we were feeling. We've had these sessions ongoing where we're able to talk about what's going on in our world. And there's been a lot of work around resiliency and making sure that we are in touch and that we know that we're all okay. So shifting to virtual presentations, making them interactive, making sure that we're communicating, making sure that we're getting the message out of self-care to all 31,000 employees, making sure that we are showing up and taking care of ourselves is a big way that we were able to make the shift, and that we are kind of making sure that we continue to give our best to our students and to the customers that we serve.
Thank you so much, Jennifer. I feel like the message of collaboration really, really sticks with me about like what 2020 can teach us for the future. I'm going to toss it to Brittany. And if Brittany, you could give us a high level overview of how Rockwood responded to 2020.
Well, I think 2020 has been really interesting because there were things that we already had in the works in terms of racial equity work that we were going to do. And then when the pandemic hit, it basically kind of slowed everything down and we had to readjust. One, when we talk about equity, really addressing the inequities that exist within technology for students and ensuring that we had enough Chromebooks, that we had enough Wi-Fi hotspots to give out to kids. Because what we know is that we can give a kid a Chromebook, but if they don't have Wi-Fi to actually be able to access it, it really doesn't matter. And so we spent a lot of time ensuring that our kids had those type of technology needs, but also really the other basic resource needs, that there was food, clothing, utilities, all the things that we could do to ensure that we could take care of our families. And then when it came to our racial equity work, my boss, Dr. Terry Harris, had the amazing idea of starting the hashtag Say Something. And we had an 8-week amazing presentation lineup every Wednesday afternoon with leaders who specialize in racial equity and education across the region. So people like me and Sharonica Harding and Howard Fields, Benita Love, who is in California, Dr. Terry Watson, who's out of Brooklyn. And so we talked about the inequities that we see in racial education and also the things that we need to do about it. So that's really how 2020 just allowed us to shift how we were going to do things, making things Zoom and Google Classroom adaptable, but really still staying on the steadfast path of our work for our 5-year strategic plan, The Way Forward, which specializes and focuses on universal access and equity.
I really think the way forward is a fantastic model for school districts looking to do great equity work. So glad to hear that there are ways to keep implementing that. Thanks, Brittany.
Thank you.
And then to you, Mary, if you could talk about the Federal Reserve's responses to 2020 and how it changed your program delivery models.
Okay, thank you. Well, for us, most of our programming, as you can imagine, was done face-to-face with educators. The shift was to move our programming, our professional development for educators to Zoom and WebEx and other alternative mechanisms. But we also did things, so we have a teacher portal called Econ Lowdown where teachers can access resources for teaching personal finance and economics, and they're all free. So we did some work with LTI so that school districts who have Canvas as an LMS system could easily integrate our resources through Canvas. We also turned to doing some direct to parent and teacher programming. So we did a 2-week virtual summer camp, a personal finance summer camp for middle school and high school students. And we had about 2,500 students from around the country participate in that. And then we also, AP College Board took all of their AP tests online. So we did an AP test review webinar for high school students. And then we also did an AP assessment or practice hub for students in our Econ Lowdown portal, so they could practice on their own the content that they'd be tested on in the AP exam. So those are some of the things we did.
That's great. For everyone in the audience, please check out the Federal Reserve's teacher portal. As somebody who does that kind of cataloging portal work, it's an amazing example, and the fact that they're able to seamlessly integrate it with the technology that teachers are already using, I think is just exactly what teachers need in 2020 when they're faced with these hybrid models, some teaching in class. So being able to save them that step, that integration is amazing.
Thank you.
Of course. So hopefully Terrell can join us. We're going to keep going. Brittany and Mary, what conversations were had at the leadership level around making the changes? How did your organizational leaders approach making these changes? Let's go ahead and start with Brittany.
Well, we kind of knew this was coming. Probably not early enough, but enough for us. The shutdown happened right after spring break. And so we had enough time to do some planning in terms of ordering technology, which was very helpful. And then when we got into May and the murder of George Floyd, we had even greater conversations about what we were going to do to support racial equity within the district and within the community. My job is nothing new. Rockwood has had a coordinator of educational equity. This is the first time they've had a director of educational equity. And there were things that we were planning on doing this summer, like in-person workshops, all those things. And so we had to really talk about how we were still going to be able to access this quality education and professional development for our staff and still support our students. And so it was really just a conversation of how do we move everything to Zoom. The other positive thing is we had planned for this school year, the first time we have full PD days, which are amazing. We plan on bringing people together, but we're of course doing it on Zoom now. But it's allowed us to have real conversations around equity that we weren't able to have before, because before PD days were half days. And so you would get into 3 hours of the work and then the day would be over. Well, now we have these full days. And so it's amazing that our staff can choose these strands. So equity, technology, STEM, all these strands of education that they can sign up for. And they can literally do a whole day of this almost every month. And so us being flexible and us having that plan already, it just required us to kind of shift what it would look like.
Thanks. Mary?
I want to talk about two things here in terms of delivering economic and financial literacy resources. Our leadership wanted us to, of course, keep ourselves and our constituents safe. So they encouraged us to move to a virtual platform. They were very open to that. They asked us to provide professional development clips to help teachers figure out how to use the portal more easily and so on. And we did a lot of that. as a system, so there are 12 Federal Reserve banks, and most of the banks have economic education outreach. And so as a system, one of the things we've done in terms of equity issues is we have begun to, we've done a series of talks for teachers who are teaching economics about how to discuss inequality and racial issues within a basic introductory economics course. So where do you introduce that? How do you talk about it? So we did the first of those on September 17th as a system with about 330 educators attending virtually. And our next one is November 18th. And Raphael Bostic, who's president of the Atlanta Fed, will keynote that. And then we have a panel of educators who are going to talk about how you do this in an economics classroom. How do you integrate it and make it an ongoing part of a class and not something just that happens at the end of the course in a chapter or, you know, once a year during February because that's Black History Month or something like that. So those are some of the things that we've done to pivot in both of those areas.
Okay, thank you. I might open this up to the whole panel. How did you engage the community that you serve in making program changes? And has 2020 changed how you plan to engage with the community into the future? Jennifer, can I start with you?
Yes. So one of the things, you know, with my role in making sure that students are connected to our organization, and we start with students when they're in high school, follow them throughout college with the ultimate goal of being able to offer or have them take opportunities within BJC Healthcare. One of the big challenges was not only, you know, the challenges that impacted us as an organization, but the students that were graduating from high school and from college were hit very, very hard. So I had a lot of my students that I had been working with for years that were emailing me and saying, Miss Irvin, I've graduated. It's May, it's June. They're emailing me, I've graduated and I don't know what to do. So being able to shift what we would normally bring the students in, have this huge interviewing day in person where they can talk to HR. We had to pivot and do a lot of those things online. And quite frankly, pivot to the point where I would love for you to meet this student. However, you can't. Let me talk to you on behalf of this student and please give this student an opportunity. And as a result of being able to talk through and connect via Zoom, via email, and in some cases via text, we're able to get 4 students that had graduated from college opportunities that they were able to secure during this pandemic, which was very important. Making sure we were able to keep the work going. It has also, what I found is that it has benefited. We're able to have a broader reach. So whereas our programs were typically St. Louis and the metropolitan area, we have opened up, for example, we have an Explorers Coast that would normally have 30 students. We opened up that Explorers Coast and now we have 110 students, not just from the St. Louis area, but broadening our horizon and being able to reach out to other students. We're getting the message out to school districts and sending them a list of what we can do. And all of our what we can do are in a virtual format. So I've been able to partner with one of our districts that we've partnered with a long time, the Rockwood school districts, and have had 5 presentations with students in that district during the pandemic via Zoom, and the students are reaching back out. So just making sure that we are staying connected to not only our customers, expanding our partnerships, and making sure that we are, collaboration is the word of the day. Collaboration, collaboration, collaboration. And that has really proved beneficial for us both internally and externally.
Thanks, Jennifer. Yeah, I love that. I love technology where it's able to like really expanding the reach of great programs. So that's fantastic to hear. Mary, can we go to you with the same question?
Sure. So we have we serve 2/3 of Missouri, Southern Illinois, Southern Indiana, Tennessee, Kentucky, Mississippi, Arkansas. And so we have educator advisory boards in each of our 4 offices, Louisville, St. Louis, Little Rock, and Memphis. There are about 135 educators. And one thing we did was reach out to all of them and say, what can we do? What should we be doing? What's missing? from our materials. What kind of support can we offer for you? What kind of programming could we provide to make this easier for you? And so we've done some of that. As I mentioned, the AP test prep. We've also done special professional development programs on request for various teachers, school districts, and so forth, which we've always done. But in this case, they all focused on how to use our resources to deliver programming virtually. So those are a couple of things we've done. We have a student board of directors with high school seniors on it. And typically they would come into the bank once a month and meet with us. But to try to facilitate that and make it more meaningful for them, we've been meeting with them more frequently throughout the twice a month, and also a lot of more high touch contact with them, because we're always looking to hope that some of those students will come to us as interns in the summer after they serve on the board. So I'm just really trying to listen to our constituents and provide what they need. If they needed us to do a program for their students, we've done that. Just trying to help them in a very stressful time as much as we possibly can.
Thanks. I love to hear about student leadership and student voice being incorporated into programs. So that's fantastic. And then Brittany.
Well, I will say, and I actually just said this yesterday, I realized that we are literally the social workers. I'm over the social workers in our school district. We are literally doing hundreds of home visits a month right now. And it's an amazing way to see families. And I think about all the ways that I think we all think about the ways that COVID has kept us from interacting with people, but we've been doing these like sidewalk chats with our families. And I think it has given us a way to make some really meaningful connections. Different than how we've even made them before. It's different when people are in a building, but it's different when someone invites you to their home, even if it's just the sidewalk of their home. And so we've really been focused on creating these connections with families, letting them know that we're here, that we love them, that we support them, that distance doesn't separate our love and care for them. And so that has been really engaging. And when we talk about, Kate, I was thinking when you said like student engagement, I would say probably the proudest thing that I am the most excited about is 2 Mays ago, so May 2018, I wrote a Black literature class with our literature and our ELA, so our language arts coordinators. And this fall, we were able to launch Black Lit. And so I've been so excited, and I was worried about like, how was I going to make it to all 4 high schools at least once a week to be able to see the class? The beauty of Zoom is that I've been able to visit the classes weekly without having to try to tear down 109 every day out in Eureka, making it from Fenton, Eureka to Wildwood to Baldwin to get to the high schools. And it's been a journey of our equity work and ensuring that we continue to embed diverse curriculum into the district and into the things that our kids know. Because what I know is that you can't be what you can't see. And so it's important to give our children reflections of themselves and reflections of the world. And so that has been one of the greatest things that we've done. We also released, and I didn't talk about this before, but we released the Beloved Community, our equity plan. So the Beloved Community is based off of our universal access. And so what I tell everyone is it's rooted in equity and fueled by love, because everything that we do is centered with our kids for love and ensuring that they have universal equity and access. And it's been interesting rolling this out online, but still having people be able to interact with it.
Thanks, Brittany. It's really inspiring to hear love being used in terms of education. I think that that's incredibly important as a mom and as a former classroom teacher. I love that that is built in systemically to Rockwood's educational plan. So that's fantastic. So I think I'm going to ask my final question that I wrote, and then we can open questions up from the chat. We have at least one. So the last question I have for you is, what is the most important lesson that you individually or your organization learned from 2020? And how are you going to carry that lesson into your future work and your mission? Can we start with Mary?
So I learned that we are a lot more adaptable than I thought we were, given that we have our bureaucracy, obviously, but we were able to turn around access to WebEx and Zoom, which, given the Federal Reserve, sometimes challenging to get those things approved right away. So that was really inspiring for me to see how quickly we took action on that so we could reach our constituents. And I think that reaching a broader audience and thinking differently about how we deliver programming is really the benefit I see of this awful pandemic. And I think going forward, we will continue to try to reach our audiences. It's not that we won't do face-to-face. We love engaging face-to-face, but we will continue to look at other ways to deliver programming so we can reach a broader audience with the important information we have and support teachers. So I think those are the lessons that I'd like to carry forward for us.
Thanks, Mary. Let's go to Brittany.
I think that that's true. We've learned that you can be more flexible than what you thought you could be, that everything doesn't have to be in person, which is interesting. For us, I think it's a reminder of our devotion to and dedication to the kids, because no educator got into education just to spend all this time with adults. We greatly love and miss our kids. And so in some aspects, I feel like there's a renewed sense of emotion when it comes to the spirit of education for us. And so I try to keep that in mind in the moments where things are very, very difficult, that we're devoted in this experience of offering quality and equitable education and access for our kids, regardless of what the environment looks like. And so for us, I think it's been that renewal of that commitment.
Thanks, Brittany. I feel like commitment is a really important word throughout all of these ecosystems. That's great to hear. And then Jennifer. I feel like we might be having some tech issues on.
It won't let me unmute. Okay, it's okay. So I think, coupled with what Brittany and Mary has already shared, I would throw in there, I've learned the importance of self-care, the importance of resiliency, and we've also really, really see how much we rely on each other. With it, because we are, all 31,000 of us are essential. It takes each and every one of us doing what we do to make the flexibility. And for me, schools, what I've learned is that I have to meet them where they are. It is such a vast difference between a lot of the districts. I'm happy to get on, do the presentation, and be able to communicate with students via Zoom, via whatever platform they have. And quite frankly, I did a presentation within a school district that I had to rely on being able to talk at a conference, because they didn't have the ability enough of the students didn't have the ability to be able to log on. It's there. People where they are, meeting the students where they are, whether they have to Zoom given 100%. So the value of can be that need to help, and to give 100%. However, ability is important. Given 100%, equitable is very, very important in our world.
Hey, Kate, could I just add one thing quickly? So this isn't necessary. I mean, this is something I would like to carry forward. And I think it's something that our organization has always had, but I'd like to see it come forward in society, as people have had this experience of having kids at home, trying to go to school, trying to learn, and how frustrating that can be. I hope that they will carry forward the value of the classroom educator and how important it is, what a difference teachers make in kids' lives. Because I think that sometimes in the past, it's been kind of like, oh yeah, right, teachers. Our teachers have stepped forward and done tremendous things this year. And I want society to carry forward with the notion that educators matter and that they do great work, and that we should value that work and keep in mind that they've come 100% every day during this pandemic, whether it's virtual, face-to-face, hybrid. They're working like crazy to deliver programming to our kids so they can be educated. So
thank you so much, Mary. Like, I'm getting a little misty-eyed at that. Yes, teachers deserve all the things. I'm hoping that 2020 is maybe the leverage point where we can start talking about fair compensation for teachers. So thank you so much, Mary, for making that point. And I'm like, the chat is blowing up with yes. So everyone here who works with educators, please send them all the love from everybody in the STEMSTL ecosystem. Yes, they should be making CEO wages, Cindy. That is absolutely true. Okay, so with our last few minutes, I'm going to open it up to questions from the audience. You can throw them in the Q&A in the chat. So how do you get the word out to students about what you are doing outside of the surrounding metropolitan area? I think it's an interesting question too, just about outreach and marketing as, you know, nonprofit K-12 kind of organizations. And whoever wants to take it can jump in.
I'll jump in because I think that for us, you know, I'm so happy that of STEMSTL resources and partnerships. So if we have something going on within our confident, I send audience and I send it to I have a lot of the school districts work with all of the school liaison that we send it from, and frankly, no, a lot on their plate. If it's something seniors, and we have seniors that we've been working with, that we send it directly to the students in some cases that they able to act on. For example, I learned of a college fair, and I know that by the time I go through the chain of sending it to all of these, the student that really needs this information gets it. So information or send it direct. So it kind of depends on the urgency and the turnaround that we have with that information. Partnerships, getting it out through other partnership messages out.
So our primary audience is teachers. We're delivering resources for teachers to use. We have a database of teachers to whom we send information. We send to school districts. We use social media as we can. We try our best to get it out in a multiple of ways. We have a newsletter, but I'm sure that we could learn how to do it better.
Brittany, do you want to add anything? Is your mic acting up?
Okay. Here we go. I'm not in the business that they're in. And so for us, it's just the regular the way that we communicate with our families. What I will say, and I'll continue to say, is our social workers have done an amazing job reaching out to some of our most vulnerable families that schools typically have a greater issue communicating with or hearing back from or corresponding with. And so for us, it's really been like the home visits, and it's been emails, and it's been phone calls, and it's been Zooms. It's been whatever ways that we need in order to be able to communicate with our families best. So really we try to preference it in terms of what families like the most. So if you're an email family, we will email you. If you prefer home visits, we'll home visit you. It's really about just meeting all their needs where they are, and then we can adapt to it.
Love it. Both you and Jennifer, like hearing about that personal touch is really inspiring. That being able to reach out individually is so powerful. Okay, this question is so great that I think this is probably going to be our closer. How do we motivate people to continue to do things differently after we go back to the new normal? So I think that is such a great lens for 2020, like this place where like everything kind of fell apart. How do we rebuild in a much more equitable, high quality, fantastic way? And I'll let whoever wants to jump in.
I think that it's really about continuing to stress the movement of flexibility and allowing people the space to create some different options on how they deliver their services. And so knowing that, especially in education, we know that one size does not fit all. And so we have to continue to do that. I think that there's a lot of conversations in the public education space of what does a virtual high school look like? Are we going to offer that to students even when we have kids back in the buildings? Because we know that there's some kids who are thriving in this space, that this is much easier for them than being in a building like Marquette High School. We have 2,400 kids. And so for us, it's really looking at what are the ways that we can take the things that we've seen work and then apply them to the system of the new normal. But the question really is when's the new normal happening? Like when is it going to get normal? Because everything changes on a daily basis. And so for us, it's really finding those things that work so well and then continuing to add to them and trying new things as well.
Love that. You can never step in the same stream twice. So what's happening in this stream going forward? Mary or Jennifer?
I'll chime in. Brittany has some excellent stuff from our standpoint. For us, I think sure that we realize and recognize that there's to Brittany's, it's not a one. So give the ability to have that. So for a district that we work with, that they're going to bring their students back and they're willing to have our school and they want us to deliver a program, being flexible to be able to work with that district, the same as we would work with a district that says absolutely not, you can't come in our doors, you have to be virtual. So being flexible, as well as making sure that, again, whether we're delivering a program virtually or we're delivering it in person, you're getting the same commitment. We're committed the same. You're getting 100% of us. We're showing up. You're getting 100% of Jennifer. When I come to your school, you're getting 100%, whether I'm on Zoom, whether I learned a new platform, whether I'm on Vibella, whether I'm on Remo, whatever, you're going to get 100%. And I think that's so important to, again, meet people where they are and be able to be flexible. Quite frankly, there are some schools that opened up, students were coming back, then they were back virtual again. So, okay, we were supposed to come, but let's go ahead and do that same program virtually and being able to let the schools know, again, they're getting 100%. I think that's important, that flexibility and giving our all.
I guess I would just reiterate what both my colleagues have said here, that flexibility is going to be key to this. We have to be a little more broad about how we deliver programming. I don't know what normal is going to be when we go back. And so I have to remain adaptable and flexible and try to provide the best programming I can for teachers so that their kids have the opportunity to learn economics and personal finance. And if that means that, as Jennifer pointed out, I'm going into a school to do PD or I'm doing it virtually, I have to keep those options open. So I just agree that flexibility is key to all of this.
Thank you so much for all of your wisdom that you've shared today. I was just so grateful to share the stage with all three of you this morning. Everyone, I'm so sorry that you did not get a chance to hear from Terrell Adger. I believe he will be here at the event. So if you can find him, please talk to him about the amazing work that Jean Slave Girls and Boys Club did this year, because really they were there to provide students with their concrete needs this year. And I think that he will have, a multitude of lessons that you can learn from, their work. So we are moving into break. I will see people at 10:15 in the breakout sessions.